A very good morning to my dear students of class 8, and I am happy to welcome you all to today's botany class. Today we are going to learn a new chapter, and the name of the chapter is ecosystem. What are we going to learn today? We are going to learn about ecosystem. The introductory part we will learn today. Clear? About this topic ecosystem, you must have studied right from your lower grades, maybe from your grade 3 itself. You must have studied some basic concepts, right? Either in your geography class or in your science class you must have studied. So since you are in grade 8 now, some more concepts in deep you will be learning in this botany class. Clear? So before learning the definition for ecosystem, let me tell you some concepts. No organism in this world is in isolation. What does this mean? Every organism in this world is interacting to each other by some means. Nothing can live isolated. By itself it cannot live. It has to depend either on other organisms or it has to interact with the environment for its basic needs or for its survival. That's what is meant as no organism in this world or in any world can live in isolation. What is isolation? Isolation means living separately all alone. It cannot be that way. For some needs, either for their food or shelter or for other purposes, they have to depend on other organisms. And organisms in a particular area always keep interacting to each other. See, this example is given. This is an ecosystem and there is a fish here in this pond, right? So this fish will interact with its own species. If you observe clearly, you can see two kinds of fishes, one white in color or silver in color, I don't know how it appears for you, and the other one brown in color, right? So these fishes interact among their own species. It interacts with the other variety, the brown color variety of fish. Also it interacts with the worms. That's what is given as organisms in a particular area. What is this particular area? In this case the particular area is a pond. It is a pond ecosystem, right? So in a pond ecosystem it interacts with the neighboring species. Here organisms in a particular area interact and the interaction is among themselves with each other. Here in this case the example is the interaction may be within the fishes or within the physical environment. What is physical? Physical means the immediate temperature or air around it or the water around it. These are all physical factors, which means it is some natural factor and it is not a living organism. So this is the introductory part. Next we learn about the definition of ecosystem. What is a ecosystem? Ecosystem is a self-sustained unit. What is self-sustained? Self-sustained means it need not depend on other environment. Say for example the organisms in a pond, let it be a plant or let it be a fish or let it be a worm, will not go to next pond in search of food or for other climatic conditions. It is self-sustained. They have everything in that pond itself. They need not go for any purpose to another pond. So this is called the ecosystem because it is self-sustained. Everything needed for the organisms in that pond is available in that pond. So that's why it is mentioned that as self-sustained unit. And living organisms, as I told in the previous slide, living organisms always keep interacting with each other in a ecosystem. Always they interact some way. And the non-living environment includes natural environment. Here along with these living organisms you also have non-living stuff. No, what are they? Water, you have temperature, also you have for a water there is a particular temperature, right? So water is a non-living environment. Then temperature is also a non-living environment. Similarly, the air around it, the oxygen, carbon dioxide, gases, these are all non-living environment. So, an ecosystem will have a living environment as well as a living environment including all living organisms and a non-living environment which includes a natural environment which may be air, water, soil and those factors all. So, examples for ecosystems are given: pond ecosystem, forest ecosystem, grasslands. So, these are all some examples of ecosystem. So, you can define ecosystem as a self-sustained unit which includes both living organisms that interact with each other and also non-living factors which is mostly the natural environment. Then there are two types of components in an ecosystem. As I told you already, an ecosystem will always have biotic components and abiotic components. What is biotic? Biotic means living components as well as non-living components. So, what are the two components present in any ecosystem? Any ecosystem will have two components. Definitely they will have both of them. So, one is biotic components and the next one is abiotic components. Now we learn about the biotic components and the abiotic components in detail. What is biotic? Bios means life. What is bios? Bios means life. That's why biology means study about living organisms, right? So, bios refers to life. So, this biotic components in an ecosystem will comprise of living organisms. Some examples given in your text is plants and animals. And also scavengers and decomposers also come under biotic components. What are these scavengers and decomposers? Plants and animals, you know already, right? What are scavengers and what are decomposers? Scavengers are those organisms which will feed on dead material. Say for example, a vulture or an eagle is a scavenger because it can eat dead organisms. A dead body it will eat, right? But a decomposer is either a bacteria or fungi which can decompose. A dead body can be decomposed, which means it can be broken down into very small particles or into a nutrient of lower level so that the plants can use as a nutrient. So, what are scavengers? Scavengers just feed on dead organisms, whereas decomposers will break a dead material into smaller particles of or nutrients of lower level so that the higher organisms can consume that. Clear? Also, here you have few more examples like fungus and bacteria and also protist group. You have learnt everything in classification, right? So, protista, fungi, bacteria are also included under this group, that is biotic components. So, whatever living organism, whether it is a single celled organism or a big animal, it all comes under biotic environment only. And also there is a concept, living organisms always affect the other organisms. Affect in the sense, this can be either in a positive way or in a negative way. Say for example, one will depend on the other for food. Suppose if there is a goat, it feeds on a grass. It is positive for the goat, no, because it gets food. But when you see from the side of a grass, it is no more, it is consumed by some other organism. So, one organism may affect, here the goat may affect the grass, or goat is benefited from the grass. So, here one is benefited and the other one is always affected in a biotic environment. Next we learn about abiotic components. I told you already, the components which is all essential for your life, which includes non-living materials. It can be either air, or it can be water, or it can be rocks, or it can be soil. So in a environment or ecosystem, it does not contain only living organisms, right? We also have many non-living organisms around us, like air, water, rock, soil, temperature, humidity, whatever it is. It all comes under non-living components or abiotic components. A means absence. So abiotic components, and always a biotic component depends on abiotic components as a essential factor. What is the essential factor? Without this we cannot survive. Though we are all living organisms, without these non-living factors we cannot survive. So it is called essential factor for life. Also, climate is a abiotic factor. Sunlight is a abiotic factor. Imagine if you don't have light at all throughout 24 hours, if it is going to be dark, survival is very difficult, right? So sunlight is also an essential factor, and humidity, temperature, these are all abiotic factors or essential factors of life which are non-living. So in this image, some examples are given, like water, atmosphere, temperature, soil. See, don't wonder why soil is a box. Just when the layers of the soil are represented, it is represented in the form of a box. It means a section of the soil is shown and it has many layers. Clear? So here sunlight and wind is also given as examples for abiotic factors. Then these biotic components we have already studied, no? Living organisms all include under biotic components. These biotic components are of three types called producers, consumers, and decomposers and detrivores. So decomposers and detrivores is one category. So apart from that, producers and consumers. So what are the three types or subtypes in biotic component? Producers, consumers, and decomposers and detrivores. So you know, biotic factors are all living organisms. They are all classified based on their function, what they contribute in a ecosystem. Based on that, they are classified into three. Let's learn in detail about them. What are producers? Producers are autotrophs. What is autotroph? Auto means self and troph means food. Auto is self and troph is food, which means they can produce their own food. Which produces their own food? Plants produce their own food, right? So green plants are examples for autotrophs. So producers include only the plants in this world. So plants are called as producers. And how they produce their food? They produce their food by a process called as photosynthesis, right? And one new concept is here for you. You know already they produce food in the form of glucose. They produce food with the help of sunlight, chlorophyll, everything you have studied already. The new concept here is there is transfer of energy, that is solar energy. Sunlight is actually solar energy, and when it makes food, that food is called chemical energy. The energy is stored in the form of chemical. So here the solar energy has been converted into chemical energy. So now the food is a source of energy. What energy? It has chemical energy. So whenever an animal eats the food or we human beings eat the food, we get the energy from the food in the form of a chemical energy, and that's why producers are referred to as the main source of food and energy. Next we learn about consumers. What are consumers? Consumers are generally heterotrophs. What is heterotrophs? Autotrophs you have studied, right? What is autotroph? Whatever can produce its own food, they are called as autotrophs. And now we have learned that producers are autotrophs, that is plants are autotrophs, we have studied. So heterotrophs depend on other organisms for their food. They cannot produce their own food, but they depend on other organisms for their food directly or indirectly. There are three types of consumers called as primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. So what are the three types of consumers? Primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. So about primary consumers, they directly feed or depend on the plant. Say for example, if there is a goat is a primary consumer because the only source of food for the goat is the grass or the plants, right? So they directly eat the plants, so they are called the primary consumers. And examples for consumers are, primary consumers are goats, deer, rabbits. These are some examples given in your book, but generally whatever eats the plants or the grass or the trees or the leaves, generally they all come under the category primary consumers. And here they get the herbivores or the plant eating animals. What is plant eating animals called? They are called by the term herbivores, right? This you must have studied in your lower class itself. So these herbivores get the chemical energy, that is the food, from the plants. Already we have studied plants produce food and they store the food in the form of chemical energy, no? So when these herbivores consume the food, the chemical energy which is stored in the plant is now transferred into the primary consumer, that is the goat. Clear? This is about primary consumers. So what have we studied? They directly depend on the plants. Examples given in your book are goats, deer and rabbits. So plant eating animals are called herbivores and they get the chemical energy that is which is stored in the food directly from the plants. This is about primary consumers. And also other examples, insects and grasshoppers. Even the insects varieties also eat the plants. Now you can see on the leaves all you can see small insects, they eat the plants as well. So they are also primary consumers. What are secondary consumers? Secondary consumers eat the primary consumers. Say for example, a lion is a secondary consumer because a lion can eat a goat. Goat is a primary consumer, right? So when a lion can eat a goat, this becomes a secondary consumer. They indirectly depend on the plants. How they indirectly depend on the plants? So a primary consumer eats the plant directly. Say for example, a goat eats the plant directly, but a secondary consumer eats the goat, that is the primary consumer, but it does not eat the grass, right? So indirectly how it eats, depends on the plants, because it is eating the goat which directly depends the plants for their food. So indirectly this also is dependent on the plant. So these eat the herbivores and they are called as carnivores. So these are called as carnivores because they eat the herbivores. And now the chemical energy from the primary consumers now transferred to whom? The secondary consumer. So the examples given for secondary consumers are lions and tigers. Lions and tigers. Other examples given are wolves, lizards and snakes. Okay, how can a snake be a secondary consumer? Say for example, if there is a bird is a primary consumer because directly it can eat the seeds of the plant. So plants are producers, right? So birds are primary consumers when it eats the products of the plant. Suppose if a snake eats the bird, then now the snake will become the secondary consumer. That's why it is given as an example for secondary consumer. So finally we learn about tertiary consumers. Tertiary consumers also indirectly depends on the plants. So here example is given. See, there is a food chain. Here there is a plant and the plants are producers, you know, right? All plants are producers. Here the consumer, the primary consumer is a snail. The snail eats the plant. So, since the snail directly eats the plant, it is called the primary consumer. Now, if a small bird eats the snails, the bird will become a carnivore now. Why carnivore? Because anything which eats the flesh of other animals is carnivore, right? So, now this bird is a carnivore and it is a secondary consumer in this example because it eats the primary consumer, which is the snail. Right. So, here the secondary consumer eats the primary consumer, and since a eagle or a vulture eats a small bird, this becomes the tertiary consumer. Consider this as a eagle. This consumes a small bird, so this is the tertiary consumer here. Here it's given indirectly it depends on the plants. The eagle indirectly depends on plants because suppose if there are no plants at all, there will be no food for the snail and there will be no food for the small bird. So, indirectly it depends on the plants for its food. Though it is not direct, indirectly it depends. So, they eat the carnivores. I told you here the small bird is a carnivore because it is eating the flesh of the snail. So, the tertiary consumer, eagle, eats the secondary consumer, that is the small bird, which is a carnivore. Now, the chemical energy, I already told you, in photosynthesis, energy is stored in the form of chemical energy, right? So, now this plant has chemical energy. This chemical energy is transferred to the primary consumer. From the primary consumer to the secondary consumer, the chemical energy is transferred, and finally to the tertiary consumer, the energy, the chemical energy is transferred. So, the chemical energy is transferred through the primary consumer and the secondary consumer. Clear? What have we seen about tertiary consumers? Tertiary consumers do not eat the plant directly, but indirectly they depend on the plants for their food, and the chemical energy is transferred to the tertiary consumers through the primary consumer and the secondary consumer. This is all about consumers. In our next class, we will be learning about the decomposers and detritivores in detail. For today's homework, you are going to read page number 53 and 54, which is this topic, that is the introductory part of ecosystem. Please read your daily lessons so that it will be easy for you during your exams, right? So, that is all for today's class, and until I meet you in your next biology class, you all take care and bye-bye.